Welcome back to the TMR podcast. We are back finally reviewing a Marvel movie again after 3 or 4 months. After Black Widow, that was the last Marvel film that I reviewed. Damn, it's been a long time. And it's good to be back, and it's good to be reviewing Shang Chi, which is directed by Destin Daniel Cretton. It stars Simu Liu, Awkwafina, and Tony Leung in the lead roles. It's basically about Shang Chi, who confronts the past that he left behind when he's drawn into the web of the mysterious Ten Rings organization led by his father. Guys, I have been waiting forever for this film, and I've been waiting forever to see true Asian representation in Hollywood, where we can finally have a Asian superhero to call our own. It's been a long time coming. And finally, we are here for it. We're part of history. And thank God that this is the film to do it. Because guys, I was not let down by this film at all. I had quite large expectations going into this film. And, you know, when you have certain expectations, especially with a superhero film, especially with a universe as well crafted out or as well, thought out as Marvel does, you do have a lot of expectations. But I am glad to say that this film does meet the mark, and I'm glad to say that I do have a lot of good things to say about it. So without further ado, let's get into the positives. First off, let's talk about the fantastic and unique action sequences. This film has some of the best action sequences you'll see in a Marvel film ever. I'm not saying it's more hard-hitting than Endgame, Infinity War, or even Black Panther, or so many more movies than that. I'm just saying that the action set pieces are very unique because it draws a lot of inspiration from Asian martial arts and a lot of Asian culture, particularly Chinese culture and Southeast Asian culture. I do feel that you won't see this kind of fighting style or even culture in any other mainstream Hollywood blockbuster. So I would think that overall, it's a very well directed with fantastic action sequences, and it's full of emotion as well. Aside from that, guys, we have to talk about the performances. I felt that the performances were fantastic, especially by Simu Liu, who plays the titular Shang Chi character. You might not have seen him a lot, especially if you don't have any background to his previous TV roles. But here, it's a case of where Marvel just hires an unknown / not that famous actor and sort of makes this guy the next big thing. Because when you think of Thor, Chris Hemsworth was nothing before Thor. Chadwick Boseman was not as famous until he played Black Panther, and so many more instances of this. And with this film, it's safe to say that Simu Liu will definitely be our Shang-Chi, and he'll always be known as Shang-Chi wherever he goes, whichever film he plays, which I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. But for him, he's getting famous. Good for him. And I would say his commitment overall to the stunts were fantastic, because you can see in this film that he does all of his own stunts. All of the fighting was him. All of the choreography was, a very talented choreographer, and also him and his scene partner, whether that would be Tony Leung or anyone else. I think that the pure hard-hitting, kung fu style, or the more gentle scenes where it's sort of, training, it's almost like a dance. It's almost like you can feel that, you can see the artistry in this film with every action sequence and with every sequence with Simu Liu. I think that not only that, he also brought a lot of heart to the character, a lot of emotion to the character. Another good performance, I'd say, obviously, across the board, everyone's great. Michelle Yeoh's in almost every Asian Hollywood movie ever, and she's in here again. Awkwafina is actually really good, and also I'd say Tony Leung as the villain is one of the better aspects about this film, because I always say that a superhero movie is only as good as its villain, and thank God Wenwu is actually a very good villain. We finally get to see the real Mandarin after we were sort of tricked out of it one in Iron Man 3. We do get to see the real Mandarin and the fake Mandarin interact in this film, which is kind of hilarious. But I think that his motivation was very relatable. I would almost argue that he was right. He didn't do anything wrong, bar a few, iffy moments where he just lost his temper. But aside from that, he's a very relatable villain, and you can see where he's coming from. He does sort of do the right thing for the most part as well. I definitely say that Wenwu was one of the better parts of this film. And another positive also from a more music point of view was definitely the soundtrack. The soundtrack has been playing nonstop in my bathroom, in my car, and everywhere I go for the past 2 months. And finally, I got to see a lot of the soundtrack on the big screen. It's definitely one of the better Marvel soundtracks. I would say it's even better than Black Panther. It's definitely a very, very good soundtrack, and you can see the attention and care that Rich Brian brought to the soundtrack, along with the rest of the artists, regardless of whether it's Nicki or so many others. Other than that, I also thought that the score for the film, the soundtrack for the film, was actually very nice as well. A lot of Marvel movies and a lot of Marvel superheroes, they don't have themes, bar the Avengers and a few others. But with this one, it's safe to say that Shang Chi does have a theme, and albeit it's very, very, it draws a lot of inspiration from Chinese culture and Chinese music. So good job on the music department, on all fronts of the music department. And I look forward to Shang Chi 2 purely based on the soundtrack. However, this film, unfortunately, is not perfect, and it does fall short for me in some aspects. And it's not the aspects that I think that it falls short of, but anywho, here they are. Basically, I felt that the call to adventure was a little too soon. We spend time, I think we spent about 2 scenes with Shang-Chi himself and Katie before they're actually, tossed into the magical world, or the world where they have to start going in and facing their dad, Chang's dad, or going into the mystical world of Ta Lo. Because basically a lot of Marvel films, they spend a lot more time in the normal world, and then they take the characters to the so-called call to adventure, the fight with the villain, or whatever the world that they're fighting in. I felt that it was just a little too soon just to, put all of that on us. And I wanted a lot more time with Shang-Chi and Katie than I got. And also, I felt that it does end way too soon as well. Literally, right after the fight ends, there's one more scene and it cuts to the credits. Like, I was like, okay, wow, that was just way too fast. We didn't get enough time to marinate the ending or marinate the consequences of the ending. It just sort of ends, and it just sort of begins. Like, everything in between is good. The storytelling is good. The action sequences, everything good. But it's just the beginning and the end is what sort of bogged it down for me. Another thing, I know I just said that the overall performances were good, but I do have one issue with one performance, which was the performance of the actress who plays Xie Ling, which is the sister of Shang-Chi. I felt that she was a little too wooden, which is very weird considering the rest of the cast do a lot of good work with their emotion, with their characters. With Xie Ling, it's basically just one face, and it's this smug face that Captain Marvel has throughout her entire film. It's basically, when you come to think of it, it's basically Asian Captain Marvel, because okay, she's given a bit more build, and I sort of see why she's very stoic and all that stuff, but I do see that some of her line delivery, it might be because Ming Zhang herself might have come from a Hong Kong / Chinese acting background. So, I'm not going to be fully critiquing her performance, but I do feel that the delivery on some of the lines were very dodgy and very out of place in Shang-Chi. But overall, I would say that this is a very, very, very solid Marvel film. One of the more unique ones due to just the subject matter. It's finally good to see Asian representation in Hollywood mainstream blockbusters. And I would say that this is their best this year so far. I know I've only watched two. I haven't watched Eternals, and we're still waiting for Spider-Man No Way Home. But I would say that this is one of the best standalone films that we've gotten in a while. Because we'll kind of think of it, we've gotten a lot of Marvel sequels or prequels because they haven't had to build a new character for quite a while. But with this one, they did do a good job, and I certainly am excited for the future. Guys, I'm going to give Shang Chi a 7.9 out of 10. Guys, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. It does help a lot. And comment on the video. You agree with me, you disagree with me. Please let me know. I would love that. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next review.